Hello, and thank you for streaming us on KGW+. I'm meteorologist Chris McGinness on this hot Monday, day 2 consecutive days now of triple-digit heat. We were 101 yesterday, and we anticipate probably tacking on several degrees this afternoon. So this is day 2 of at least a 3, if not 4-day run of triple-digit heat here in Portland. And just shy of the 11 o'clock hour, well, 10:30 anyway right now, we're at 84 degrees. So we're already, that was our noontime temperature yesterday, in which we hit 101, right? So we're already well on our way. Dew points are low, humidity's low, wind is light for now, and the sky is clear. So all the ingredients are setting up to kind of verify our forecast of exceeding yesterday's high temperature. So for that reason, let's go back and show you this. The excessive heat warning continues for the I-5 corridor, basically from Seattle south of California, right? We're all in this together for the next couple of days. That warning for the I-5 corridor, and specifically the Portland-Vancouver metro area, is through Wednesday at 11 p.m. So that means excessive heat conditions we don't experience very often, and can lead to health issues, you know, dehydration, heat illness, heat stroke, whatnot. These types of conditions will persist for the next 2.5 days here through at least Wednesday evening. We think that the peak of the heat occurs today. So today will be the hottest of this run, but we're not out of the woods until probably Thursday in terms of getting back into the more tolerable heat, and probably not until Friday do we kind of avoid the 90s. So that'll kind of set the stage for, you know, where we're going, where we've been. Yesterday, today's the hot day, right? Yesterday was 105 in Troutdale. Kind of interesting with that. We'll get back to that in a second. But Eugene and Salem hit 102. The NWS office on the east side of Portland, that's at 122nd and Sandy, hit 102 yesterday. Officially 101 at the airport. So that's our first 100-degree day of the year, which is, by the way, that's kind of the average, right? Portland typically hits about one 100-degree day every summer, and it seems like lately the last several summers we're getting more and more of them. We had 5 of them in 2021. We had 5 last year. Today will be our second of what's at least going to be 3, we think, and maybe 4. Scappoose and Corvallis hit 100 yesterday. Kelso 98. That number probably gets up to about 100 today. These numbers all probably go up at least a couple of degrees. So again, today likely to be the hottest, and Futurecast bears that out. It actually has our modeling, give or take an hour, of into the upper 90s by lunchtime, and if not by noon, probably by about 12:30, we'll be at 98 degrees or so, and then up to about a high of 106 this afternoon here in Portland, 105 Salem. You get the idea. Real scorcher out the I-84 corridor in the gorge into the Columbia Basin and south towards Corvallis and Eugene. One of the things, this is the area of the state that actually could get the hottest, where temperatures are, at least temperatures of 110 are within reach today, even though our model isn't specifically identifying Corvallis and Eugene and Salem as places that could hit that. The atmosphere is warm enough to support that. There is some wildfire smoke in the air that could be the difference between hitting that and not, but the point is that we are primed for that. The other thing I wanted to point out is with Futurecast, this is tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. and lows, I think that 75 is a little high, but not that high. Portland's all-time record warmest overnight low ever was recorded last year, 73 degrees. So keep that in mind. That's why I think this is maybe just a smidge high, but it's not that high. And also, when you're talking about lows that are in the mid-70s in Portland, that means most of the night is in the 80s and 90s, right? So really, really uncomfortable, and in fact, dangerously hot for those that don't have AC. Fast forwarding to tomorrow, we shave a couple of degrees off the temperatures, but it's at least for the west side of the state. The east side is a different story. You can see our modeling goes as high as like 110 out towards Hermiston tomorrow. I totally buy that for the East Gorge and the Columbia Basin tomorrow, and then we'll start to chip away at the heat. And real quick look at our 7-day forecast. Records for today. We're easily going to break today's record high, which was 102, set back in 2008. The record for tomorrow is 100, so pretty confident we get that. The Wednesday record I didn't put on there because I don't think we're going to get there. In fact, I don't think we're going to hit 100 degrees on Wednesday, but we may. I mean, it's splitting hairs at 99, but you can see that we stair-step down out of that heat, and we start to bring in something a little bit more like it for our Northwest summers as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But in the short term, it's hot. It's all about the heat. And to talk a little bit more about that, I wanted to bring in our environmental reporter, Kale Williams. And Kale, you know, you've been here a year and a half now, right? You've done a lot of stories covering heat solutions, covering things like tree canopy. I found that really interesting, a story that you did where you studied the variance of temperatures and how widely they can vary from one side of town to the other. Tell me a little bit more about that and how a situation like what we're seeing today bears out.
Yeah, well, that's always people's first question is, is this climate change? And there's not really any way to pinpoint it to a specific weather event like this. In the past when we had the heat dome, there were these attribution studies that came out afterwards that said,
weeks afterwards.
Weeks afterwards. And so if this is, directly attributable to climate change, we won't know that for a little while. But we know we're starting from a higher baseline. Oregon has warmed 2.2 degrees Fahrenheit over the last century, largely due to the burning of fossil fuels, get carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, traps the heat, causes heat waves like this. And when you were talking about the fact that, we might hit 106 today, it's not going to be in the same in every neighborhood. If you head up in the West Hills, lots of trees, it's going to be cooler up there. If you head out into, deep East Portland, it's going to be hot over there. They say that that's the urban heat island effect. And so temperatures can be 10, 15 degrees hotter from neighborhood to neighborhood, just depending on whether the tree canopy is, big and lush and providing lots of shade, evapotranspiration of water vapor from trees, or if it's just a lot of concrete that is absorbing heat and reflecting it back.
One of those concrete areas I drive through every afternoon, right? I live in North Portland, so I go up through Greeley, and my car thermometer is always, that is the hottest part of my drive. And car thermometers are what they are, right? They're picking up the added heat of the pavement, so they're not always kind of the true official temperature, but they give you a pretty good idea, and you can see that vary from neighborhood to neighborhood as you're driving around in your car.
Absolutely. I was actually just down talking to the folks at PGE before we hopped on this KGW Plus stream, and they were telling me that folks really got to pay attention here because this type of heat can be very dangerous. This is the hottest it will have been since the heat dome of 2021, when nearly 70 people died in Multnomah County. And those deaths were primarily in outer East Portland, where folks have less air conditioning, they just aren't as prepared. And so you need to check on your neighbors. For those of us who are able to, we need to, be using our big appliances, not during the peak times of the day.
That was a good question too, actually, because you were just out speaking with PGA, and obviously heat drives, they can watch their voltage meters, their watt meters just spike in the afternoon when everybody gets home to turn on their AC. Did they, and not to put you on the spot here, because maybe this didn't get addressed, but did they specifically mention any concerns about, the high temperatures and energy usage and forbid any blackouts or anything like that?
Yeah, they said that they have done everything that they can to prepare all of their equipment. They've got big fans running on everything, but they are specifically asking folks, if you're going to be using your washer and dryer, your dishwasher, if you're charging an electric car, not to do those things between 5 and 10 p.m. because that's the peak usage hour. Obviously energy demand is going to spike right now because whoever has them is using an air conditioner. Yeah. I can tell you that I put a heat pump in my house this year, and that thing is running when we're home.
Heat pumps, if you can afford them, much better than traditional AC, compressor AC, right? We've done lots of stories about those too, that the compressor just is a energy hog.
Yeah, and fingers crossed, so far it's working great. We've got a second floor bedroom that typically, if it's 90 out, it's 100 in the bedroom. And so far it's working great. So I am happy that if you have one of those things, absolutely use it. But only use it as much as you have to. You don't want to be using more energy than you need because you don't want to put extra stress on the grid. They did say that they are prepared. They don't expect any public safety power shutoffs. These are the shutoffs that they do when there is high fire danger, because this heat wave isn't associated with the winds that we've seen in the past.
Although that brings up a good point, and we can talk a little bit about the wind and the fire danger, because that is one other issue that we are dealing with now. And I'm going to fast forward real quick through this. This is our Futurecast temperature map that does show, again, we're back in the triple digits again tomorrow. So slam dunk, 3 days of triple digit heat, as I mentioned here, possibly a fourth. I don't think we're going to get there Wednesday, but it could happen. The other thing I wanted to point out as we fast forward and talking about fire danger is that the area is under a red flag warning because of those dry fuels. We've covered drought on and on and on ad nauseum, right? But everything on the ground now is just, if you threw a spark, that'd be it. Yeah, poof, up it would go, right? In fact, we were coming back from Sun River this weekend up on I-5 through Wilsonville. We saw fire crews immediately out dealing with what looked like a brush fire on the median near Wilsonville Road on I-5 at 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, and we're likely to see, those type of pop-up incidents. But what I did want to point out is this is our modeling showing the increased northwest wind this afternoon, which may or may not, by the way, be one of those little micro things that could impact the temperature at PDX versus Troutdale. Troutdale yesterday had an east wind, got to 105. PDX, which is just a few miles to the west, had a predominantly northwest wind. It was only 101 yesterday afternoon. I mean, only, right? But there's a little variance, right?
Sure.
Anyway, that's to that point, though, is that we are worried a little bit about the wind forecast this afternoon. And another vantage point here, this is our Timberline camera. Usually here we can see Mount Jefferson off in the distance, and that is being smoked out by the fire now, the new fire that is now burning on the east side of Lane County. This is our smoke modeling. Luckily for those of us here in Portland, the predominant wind position is out of the north, right? So I don't think we're going to get a lot of that, but the point is that there's some wildfire smoke. Let's do one little more piece of climate news here. This is from the Climate Prediction Center. I'm happy to report this. Gray, which is kind of like average. What does that mean? This is the temperature outlook for August 19th through the 23rd, and it's basically indicating that, you know, flip a coin, heads or tails, we're probably going to be closer to average as we get towards the tail end of the month, or at least the third to last week of August. So this is probably it for the high heat. And frankly, as we get deeper into August, 100-degree days become harder and harder to get. So hopefully this will be it. But it's nice to see this on the tail end of our heat wave, that maybe we're going back to, you know, maybe a 90 in our forecast next week, maybe not, which is a lot more easy to take than 105.
Yeah, I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure. I think all of us will. Well, thanks for joining us here on the stream. And as always, keep it tuned to KGW and KGW Plus, and you can keep updated online and on your phone and on your TV. We'll be back for KGW News at noon, and of course, 4, 5, 6, and 11 all week. And don't forget to watch KGW News at sunrise as well. Thanks a bunch. Stay cool, everyone.